So the Barrie Colts getting ready for a big showdown with the Niagara IceDogs at the Sadlon Arena. Top spot in the Central Division is for grabs. So why not chat with Steve Clark, the TV play-by-play voice for the IceDogs? Steve, thanks for doing this.
Happy to do it. Always happy to talk a little Ice Dogs Barrie rivalry, especially when the rivalry is actually good and not one-sided like last couple years.
And for a lot of people around the Ontario Hockey League, they kind of figured maybe Niagara would challenge for a playoff spot this year after some very disappointing seasons, but they've been a huge surprise this year, now challenging for top spot in Eastern Conference. Did this catch you by surprise as well?
How well they have been doing caught me by surprise. What didn't catch me by surprise is that they were going to be in a playoff spot. I said before the year I felt this team had the talent level and players to be in a playoff spot, but I was looking at them kind of lower tier from in that 5 to 6 to 7 range. So they've really exceeded all expectations. When you look at the moves that they made, there a lot of people weren't happy with the trade of Artem Frolov and Urban Podrekar. But they got back, as you are very familiar with, Jack Browdy and Blair Scott as part of that very convoluted, complicated trade. And, Browdy has been an outstanding steadying force on defensemen with some offensive, acumen and adding in some of the other pieces like an Andre Loshko and a young player like Brady Wasselin. And it's all really come together in the best possible fashion for Niagara.
And that offensive core has been really fun to watch with the likes of Kevin He and Ryan Robrick. And also, just the other day, he signed that contract with the Winnipeg Jets. So, talk a bit about his play and what he means to this group.
Well, he has been pretty much like a star from day one when he stepped onto the ice for Niagara. My color partner Ed Burkholder identified him pretty quick and said, "This young man has first round talent." Now, of course, he got drafted in the fourth round, but I think Winnipeg has a steal, quite frankly, to get a player of his caliber at 109th overall, and the way that he has ascended, pretty well throughout his OHL career, and this year it's really all coming together. He's got 43 points, I believe, this year, and that's actually trended down a little bit from the beginning of the year. Jaw-dropping speed. He's become the captain of the team. He's very, very well spoken. It's hard to believe he's 18 years old. He's got a poise and a maturity that you don't see at players that age. And really, when you have players that are kind of worth the price of admission or worth seeing, or you could sit there with your son or daughter, whoever you're sitting beside, and point at him and go, "Yeah, look at what that guy is doing," and you'll be in pretty good shape.
And you touched on Brady Wasselin as well, just the talent he is. And he's actually been one of the top rookies this year in the Ontario Hockey League. What is it about his game that's really standing out?
Poise and maturity, I think, are the two keys. Mike, he comes in as a 16-year-old, but doesn't play like a 16-year-old, doesn't look like a 16-year-old. I think he gained some great experience at the World U17 when he went there, even though he wasn't a big point producer. He's always been a good setup guy, but he's only got 4 goals this year, but he's got a point a game thanks to 17, 18 assists. And for a player that young to fit into the top six and not look out of place is really good. And it's just the maturity of him playing a two-way game and really seeing the whole ice and the skill level he has. He was worth being picked fourth overall. And I know a lot of people felt he was the best, more well-rounded, most talented player overall. But you've been around long enough to know that the OHL draft doesn't necessarily mean the best player goes to the team that has the first pick overall. And I truly believe that the Ice Dogs did get the best overall player in the draft in Brady Wasselin. He's been simply outstanding.
And that's just it too, because in the OHL draft, the last couple of years, Niagara missing out on that first overall selection, but really, Wasselin is kind of that piece that they needed more so than a guy like I'm not saying that Belchis is not a great player, but it feels like Wasselin kind of fits the mold with Kevin He and a Robrick type.
Yeah, he really does. I think with Ethan Belches, who again, outstanding player, who will be an outstanding talent, he saw his size and presence, and well, he's kind of like a little bit of a Robrick clone when you see him play. And I really do think that Brady Wasselin just has that great all round game, and he's one of these kids, right? He's how some kids it takes a little while for them to grow and develop those muscles and things like that and put on weight. Well, Wasselin is already kind of at that 6'1", 6'2", kind of 180 mark, which is a solid size for his age. And yeah, you're right. He just seems to fit better with a Kevin He or Ryan Robrick or whoever he's playing with, because quite frankly, he's played a little bit up and down the lineup as well, top six for the most part. But at the same time, though, he's been playing with different line mates and has adjusted well to anybody he's played with.
And with the Ontario Hockey League, we're only allowed to see three overagers in a lineup on any given night. So that was a big, tough decision to make, sending Gavin Bryant to the Peterborough Petes. But it seems as though when you got a guy like Owen Flores in net, it seems like it's paid off and worked out quite well for this team, despite losing that leadership.
Yeah, if you asked me before the season, and if you asked a lot of people before the season, they would have said Owen Flores was on his way out. And we've seen a lot of good OA players have to leave the OHL, and some of them have landed tier two, some of them have landed in university OUA or U Sports, and some of them have landed in the Quebec League or the Western Hockey League. And we really thought that was going to be the fate of Owen Flores. There wasn't really a tremendous market out there when they were looking to move him. And so they said, well, we'll keep him. We'll have a decision to make down the road when Gavin Bryant's healthy. And it's real difficult to trade your captain. But Flores had played that well and has been such a steadying force, and quite frankly, has masked a lot of flaws of the Ice Dogs with his excellent play. That he's going to be the guy going forward, and he'll probably be an Iron Man and play about 80-85% of the games. I'm thinking for the rest of the season. He just seems to be one of those guys who thrives on workload and is built to have an increased workload and go. And quite frankly, in Niagara, a heavy workload is what you're going to get if you're a goalie. So it does fit well for Flores.
And I was also surprised too to find out that this year is the 10th anniversary of the Meridian Center. It seems like time's flying by. You've covered the Ice Dogs since they arrived in St. Catharines. What's that? Do you kind of miss the Jack Gatecliff a little bit, or are you really happy to be at the Meridian Center right now?
There are one or two things I miss about the Jack Gate Cliff, and that is the atmosphere, especially during the playoffs. Not much else. The broadcast booth was tiny. It was cramped. The seats were wooden. I mean, it was built before World War II, for goodness sake. So it definitely had its factors that, of it being a very, very old building. That the Meridian Center is an outstanding facility. It still looks like it's brand new, that it's only been around for a year or two. It's the perfect capacity for the OHL. When the Ice Dogs are going, the crowds, when you get sellout crowds, the atmosphere is still tremendous. And quite selfishly, Mike, and I know it's important to you as a broadcaster, we do have the best seat in the house, right at center ice, right where a converted private box is. It's a great, really, really, really great facility. And yeah, you're right. Hard to believe it's been 10 years. It's been so long that the first opponent for the Ice Dogs in the Meridian Center was the Belleville Bulls. So it does go back quite a few years.
And of course, Niagara, they put in the bid for the Memorial Cup a few years ago. That fell short. But do you feel like St. Catharines is due to maybe host the Memorial Cup? And do you think the region could put on a good show?
I really think they could, and that's not me being the homer favorite is. I'm not going to say anything bad about St. Catharines or Niagara, but I really think it does have all the elements in place that you need to host a Memorial Cup. The venue is big enough; it's 5,300. I'm not quite sure if any expansion capacities or anything temporary that they can put in. But hey, they played it in Saginaw last year, and that's a much smaller venue than Niagara. It's got the surrounding areas. It's got the hotels. It's got Niagara Falls. It's got all of the great backdrops. It's very TV friendly. So I do think that it has all the amenities. Of course, we know when it comes to Memorial Cup hosting, there's a lot of financial guarantees that have to be made, which means you need levels of government behind you, willing to support and willing to eat cost if you don't make those financial guarantees. But it's become such a big event that you need to find a good venue. And I mean, Kitchener had it in 2007. London's had it a couple of times. I think it is time for Niagara to really have it. The question is whether or not they're going to have the team, whether that team is going to be in that cycle when that Memorial Cup comes around, because it's very, very important to have a highly competitive team when you have the Memorial Cup. But yeah, I think it's definitely, perfectly suited to host a Memorial Cup. And quite frankly, I hope the region gets it.
Yeah, Niagara region, one of top tier regions in Ontario, so it would be great to see at some point. But Steve, I know it's a busy season. We're coming up to Christmas, but I appreciate you taking the time to talk here about the Niagara Ice Dogs today.
Well, yeah, you know what, Mike, it's actually been a little bit more of a break because we had our pre-Christmas game, I think back on like December the 7th or something like that. And so I'm actually broadcast free until New Year's Eve. I've never had 3 weeks off during a season. I'm actually kind of missing it. I've been watching a lot of the Ice Dogs road games. I'll be looking forward to watching hopefully the game tomorrow night that you're going to be calling. And I expect it, as I said, it's going to be a really good one between two really, really good teams.
Well, with that long break, it's going to be a home heavy schedule in the second half.
I look forward to it.
So that's Niagara Ice Dogs play-by-play voice Steve Clark, and yeah, the Niagara Ice Dogs probably a team that could really do well hosting the Memorial Cup. Obviously, 2027 will be the next time the OHL is the host league for the tournament. Right now, we know the Kitchener Rangers are interested and the Niagara Ice Dogs, so it's going to be quite the bidding process. But we still do have a couple years to go to find out who all the teams will be when it comes to that 2027 Memorial Cup run. So thank you very much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Talk to you again soon.